Today's conversation is with two of my favorite peers in the hobby. We all got started about the same time and formed a close friendship. I believe that it's a great example of what this hobby has to offer for you, and also a good counterexample to some of the nonsense that you see on social media. This conversation should help bring you some optimism and be an example of what can be achieved when a group of people come together with the same goals and work closely together for many years. I hope you enjoy this conversation with Bryan Long and Robbie Anderson. This is pardalis. So welcome to pardalis podcast. Today we have Bryan Long from Longshot Chameleons and Robbie Anderson from Ramblin Exotics here to talk about their experience selectively breeding Panther chameleons. And I want to say first that these are two guys that I have a lot of respect for. I've received animals in perfect condition from both of them over the years, and they're two people that I think are doing it right. They spend a lot of time with their customers. They raise their animals properly, and they're just good dudes. So I felt like if after people with our level of experience, I kind of see you guys as peers. To me, we're kind of, what I would say is, like, we've been doing it for a while. We've had a decent amount of experience. We're not the Brian Stewarts of the world. We're not the guys that have been doing it in the 90s before the internet, but we're people that have a decent amount of experience. And so I felt like this would be a really great conversation for people to hear. And I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of introduce yourselves and talk about why you chose pardalis and where you are now. So I guess we could start with Bryan.
I guess my journey really started with a veil. I got a veil because I always wanted a chameleon ever since I was a kid, and I just never messed with them or tried to get one. And I happened to come across somebody selling babies on Craigslist, and I went and picked a baby up, and then that's where it all started for me. I got that male, raised him up because I got him when he was, a tiny baby. And, they were all in Chameleon Central. All them ladies, Leah, Ashley, Dunn, all them, they helped me tremendously. I was running around like crazy. And I started off the right way. I got all the right things from the beginning, which really helped. And then I seen Panthers because I never even really knew they existed. And I was like, oh, my God. So I got one. I got him from you, Toby.
Yep.
And then it just exploded from there.
Yeah.
So that's Toby, how it came to be.
Yeah, Toby was a great animal. I remember that, and I think that was like my third clutch. So it was very early on. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, he was an amazing.
He really was. I mean, I'm still trying to keep his genetics going in the background for us as well.
Very cool. And so, Robbie, do you want to give us a quick intro?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started right at the beginning with pardalis. We got our first chameleon, I'd say about 4.5, 5 years ago at a Repticon close by from Suncoast Chameleons, who, they turned into being friends of ours as well. Everyone's familiar with them if you know them well.
Yeah.
And I think we had, that was Zeppelin with our first male. I think we had for about 6 months before we just jumped and went all in. I mean, fortunately, similar to Bryan, we started with most of the right stuff. I tried to learn as much as I could as quickly as possible. And then I think within 8 months we're up to 4 or 5 chameleons. I mean, I went all in. You both know I don't play around. I go all in with everything I do. So within the 8 months we had four. By the end of the year, I think I was probably up to 12. And
Wow.
yeah, at that point, I had already taken over a guest room, and within another 2 months, Bryan will tell you I took over Elizabeth's office as well.
Hey, well, I saw how you celebrated your birthday yesterday, so she seems to have forgiven you.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah. Well, I think
yeah,
getting everything out to the garage was the game changer.
yeah,
She got
yeah.
her office back.
Cool. Yeah, no, I remember when you took everything out, and that was one of the big things.
It
So,
really was a game changer for us because I mean, having everything in the house, I was at the point where I had no more space. I
yeah.
mean,
Oh, yeah.
Brian will tell you he comes by and he'll there was no more room for growth for us at the time. There really
Well,
Yeah,
was.
I'm the
yeah.
babysitter when
Yeah.
he goes on vacation.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's you guys are
I'm
lucky.
fortunate to have a good friend close by. Brian and I do what we can to help each other out. I mean, you all know in this community we try to do what we can to take care of each other. And fortunately, I have the support of Brian, who's
Yeah,
close enough by to where we can help each other out when we need to.
Yeah.
that's awesome, guy. That's awesome. And so, what locales have you guys worked with, and kind of what projects have you worked on?
For me, I ventured into Umbanja a little, and then I also did carpets for a
Mm-hmm.
while. I kind of got frustrated with the carpets because I lost all my clutches because I didn't diapause them because there's people that say, oh, you need to diapause them, and then there's people that say you don't have to.
Yeah,
So I didn't do it, and they went like 11 months, 12 months, and then they just all started dying out.
that's too
So
bad.
yeah,
I
so
think
after
I
that, I
think
was
I, th-
just
I think I think I heard Kevin Stanford talk recently, and he said at one point he said you don't need to diapause, but then he's kind of gone back on that, and now he's back on the diapause train. So um, the that might have been one of the sources because Kevin Stanford is the
yeah.
the lateralis guy, and at one point he did say that it was you didn't need to diapause, but now he's back to saying that you do. So that's probably
Yeah,
not your fault. You might have even heard that from him.
I just listened to the podcast with him and Bill, and he was
Oh,
talking
okay, yeah,
about it.
yeah, yeah. Okay, so then how about with your Ambilobe projects? What have you done with those?
Mainly, I just try to stay pure. Stick with yellow to yellow, reds to reds. And reds ain't working out for me so much. Hopefully, the
Yeah,
female I picked up from you will help strengthen that because I always seem to pop out yellow ones from ones that were supposed to be red, or a mix of them, the rainbows.
yeah. More rainbow. Like they have like a pretty solid red base coat, but then the yellow comes on top,
Well,
Yep.
type of a
one
thing.
of the biggest
Yeah,
one of the biggest issues was finding a red either males or females that were their lineage was far enough back that didn't have yellows in it because a couple of them that I got had red red parents, but the grandparents were yellows. So and
yeah,
they always end up popping out.
yeah. I asked this question to some of the older guys that have focused on reds, and they said over their career the best they've ever seen from anyone is about 25%, like 20-25%, and a good one is like 10 to 20% for the reds. Um, and there might be something genetically there that it's difficult. I personally have the opinion that it's not really a genetic thing; it's a physical thing. The Because if you look at the layers of color on Ambilobe bodies, the bottom layer is usually red, and then the top layer is usually yellow. And it's very rare for you to get a bottom yellow and a top yellow, and a bottom red and a top red. Those are really hard. So, and there's like, it's almost like a continuous spectrum from that bottom layer to the top. And the problem is, even if you get like 10% yellow on top, it looks yellow. So even if that bottom layer is really red, the just a little bit of yellow on top looks yellow. And it's not really about like a genetic thing, but more of a physical thing. And that's my interpretation of it. But yeah, complicated.
You're talking the space between the scales, right? The skin in between.
No, I'm talking like the dermal layer of their skin. Like there's chromatophores down there that create color. That's like space between the scales. It's even space. It's even under the scale. So the depth, right? And so those physical chromatophores down there, down at the dermal layer, are one thing. Then there's chromatophores in the scales, and there's different types of scales, right? There's some that are like super small, and then there's some that are bigger, and different types of chromatophores in each of those. And so that's where it gets really complicated. It's like when you get into the physical makeup of their skin, it's like there's a lot going on there, and that's why they can change into so many different colors and do all sorts of different things.
Well, just the genetics itself is so different than everything.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. Like it's so different than ball pythons, or for example. Like you know what you're going to get if you pair these two. Do you know what I mean? There's no way to know.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing is like people who come from the ball python hobby, like you, Brian. Yeah. You have a background in those genetics, right?
Right.
So, and in that hobby, can you talk to us a little bit about the difference between that and pardalis, like your understanding of ball python genetics and pardalis?
When you're breeding ball pythons, there's three main traits. You know, there's co-dominant, there's dominant, and there's recessive.
Yep.
With chameleons, it's like they're all recessive. I mean, you have visuals, but anything can pop out at any time from anything.
Okay, I like that analogy.
You know,
I like that.
That's a great way to put it, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you don't know what's hidden. Even though you know what the parents look like, there's still always something hidden.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting way of looking at it. I look at it like, because I'm a data scientist, so I think about it on distributions of like normal distributions. And so I'm like, oh, these are, because everything is more complex, the genotype is more complex, you're going to hit on the tail of the distribution. So the rare events are going to happen, right? And then you're going to have a mean or an average of what looks something like the sire and dom sire. But no matter what you do, you're always going to have those tail results, the rare things popping up, and that's just part of it, which makes it fun. So, but I like that. Sure. I like that. Like everything's a recessive that could just like pop off.
There's always something hidden.
Yeah. Very cool. How about you, Robbie? What are some of the projects that you've worked on over the years?
For me, it's mostly, the yellow body blue bar Ambilobes, and then also we've been working with the red body blue bars for quite some time as well now.
Yep.
About end of last year is when we started our Nosy project. So we've been working with Nosy Be for about a year now as well.
Yeah, you produced the best Nosy Be clutch in the United States last year, I think.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
No, I think it's objectively true. I don't I look around, I don't think anybody paired up a wild caught to that quality of captive bred genetics.
And with the limited amount of people working with them, it's hard to find, good genetics, but at the same time, it's easy to find because the people working with them are all working with good quality animals.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
the three of us, that's our key goal is what we're breeding with. And fortunately, you know, with the Nosies, I got lucky that the few people that are working with them are doing great things.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I remember looking and seeing the lineage on that female, seeing the quality of that wild caught, and I said, "Damn, that's a good clutch."
Oh
That's
yeah.
they really paired well.
Oh, definitely. And I was really happy with the first round of babies so much that I kept the female right from the first clutch, and then went and
Yeah.
bought another male wild caught.
Oh, you did? I haven't seen him yet. Have
Yeah,
you
no,
posted?
I haven't posted him up yet. I mean, he's been around for about 6 months now, but he's kind of like
Okay.
the secret assassin that I'm working with right now.
Oh, I see. I see. I see. I'm more like a kid in the candy shop. I can't help but just be like, I got a thing, and you know,
Yeah, I think
yeah.
we've only done one post showing him, and it was literally right when we first got him. I mean, he was
Okay.
probably a couple months into the United States when I was like, "Look what I got!" All right, that's it. That's all you get to see for now.
Didn't
Cool,
you got
man.
him from J too,
That's
right?
awesome.
Yeah, yeah. All my wild caught, our current stock wild caught boys are all from Jay right now.
Yeah, One World Exotica has been doing a great job.
No,
Starting last spring, they've
yep.
really been bringing in some really quality imports. Um, I received some then, and I received some now that I'm very excited about. So, yeah,
Yeah, the ones you grabbed were nice.
Oh yeah.
They were nice looking for wild caughts.
I know, I know, and you should see Taeyang sleeping, man. It's like
Oh God, I can only imagine.
he looks just like Jude. He looks
No
just like
way.
Jude. Just different bars. That's it. Like
Wow.
he looks like a freaking banana. It's like he sleeps that way. And I've been thinking of ways to try to breed Jude to bring him back, right? Because
Yeah.
I don't really have that look. And I'm like, well, we got Taeyang now, so don't need to
There
worry
you
about
go.
that. So it was definitely one of those things that I'm very excited about. So cool, man. So how about have you noticed any consistency differences across projects? I know Brian just mentioned red bodies being difficult, and I know I've seen the same thing from my even in my first red when I go for reds. Um, those ones tend to be difficult to hit on. But have you guys noticed any other kind of? I feel like Nosy B, you're like 100%. Is that
Oh
fair?
yeah, it's the nosies. Honestly, I've not had much difficulties with because I was kind of worried about the red rain peeking through a little bit, but I
Yeah,
think I got really lucky with this male. Even the other one, fired up. I'm not seeing anything coming out. Even with the babies, I have not seen any random reds or any other colors popping out. They're true blue. I've gotten really
that's cool.
lucky with the animals that we got.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool, man. How
Yeah.
about how about any other stuff that you've done? I know you've bred a bunch of different types of Ambilobe.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, most of the time we just tried to stick with the yellow body blue bars and then the red bodies. And like we were discussing before, I've seen had the same issues with the red bodies with it really sticking to the reds. I think your percentages are pretty spot on with what you get. I mean, it's hard to say. Especially,
yeah,
occasionally you'll get the customer that wants the animal as young as possible, but they want you to guarantee that it's a red body animal. And it's hard to
yeah,
say. It's like I can do lineage, but unless I hold on to him for another 2 months for you, I can't really
yeah.
guarantee
And if
that.
you really want to guarantee, I need to hold on to him for another 12 months. And
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. No, I have the same thing. And coming over from yellow to red, uh, it's difficult,
Yeah.
because I remember looking at some of like Ralph, for example, when he was younger. He had a little bit on the hips that were still not red,
Hmm.
and he was kind of orangey for a while, and then all of a sudden that red darkened up right around 8 months of age, where it went from that orangey color to more of like a dark, deep red or tomato red.
Yeah.
Still more of like a neon variety of it, not like that darker type of red, but still, I was like, I I'm like, how you predict that? How do you know that that's going to happen at 8 months? and I think for most of them, they're on the red side. They're just a lot harder to read at a younger age.
I agree.
Even some of the best red body blue bar you see, like before Ralph came around, like TNT for example, he still had green and yellow on him in his back.
Oh yeah,
you know.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, definitely, and that's why I'm super excited about Cosmo, like bringing Cosmo into the mix, because he's a solid red. Like he's more that deep shade. He's a different shade of red. So one thing I'm interested to see from a genetic standpoint is if you take that shade of red and you put it with Ralph, does it produce red? Like maybe it doesn't. Maybe
what's gonna peek out from behind the curtain on you, huh?
You know,
because those are probably different genes, right?
Yeah.
And the other thing too is some of those reds that you see are red, like the whole thing.
Yeah.
You rarely get ones that are nice red and have nice defined bars that are blue.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, it's tough. I see a lot of them where it like bleeds into the bars and it kind of takes over, right?
Right. That's what I mean.
It's like it's like a red sheen over the entire animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
and then as it gets darker, the bars disappear, and you're like, oh god, that's not what I want.
No.
So it's like you were talking when we were talking the one time we were talking about you never get a clean body and clean bars at the same time. You either get one or the other.
Yeah.
Like for the yellow body, so it's probably just even harder to get that with red.
Yep. And that sheen effect is actually why I like the physical interpretation of color, is because that sheen is really like the top. It's like the top coat of color. And so if you could get one with a really solid red base coat, and then you take that sheen gene and you put those together, that's where you get the full red top to
all
bottom.
The way through. Yeah.
And so, at least I don't know. That's a theory. It's not I haven't done enough with reds, but like that's one of the things I'm thinking about.
Well, that makes sense.
Yeah. So how about when you're selecting animals, guys? What are some of the information that you look for, and try to make sure you see before you decide to go with somebody, or do you use more of a personal relationship? What type of information do you use to try to select your animals?
I message this guy from my pardalis sometimes. You know, I ask him, "Hey man, how do you know? How do you know what to look for?"
Yeah.
Because really, in the beginning, I didn't choose very well. So, the last 2 years, I didn't have anything spectacular, per se. They were nice, beautiful, healthy animals, but nothing that popped out like the ones I have now.
Yeah, that's what I've been telling everybody. And I said, you know what? Bryan Long just produced one of the best yellow body groups in the United States. They should be flying off the shelves. Like those are gorgeous, and that's why on my business account I was sharing your stuff. I was like, this is awesome. Go get this, people.
Like I still have that bright yellow one.
I know, he's so nice. So I think that though that group is objectively very nice, and I think other people know it too. So it's just a matter of getting it to the customers, like sophisticated customers, understanding how rare it is to get a group that nice and consistent. Like you look at the bodies. You look at the bodies on those males.
Yeah,
there's not even there's not an orange one in there. There is. Yeah.
The crazy part is you'd never expect that from the sire. Cadillac wasn't. You know what I mean? He wasn't the cleanest.
No. His bars were not clean, but his body was clean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, but he had red. He had a lot of red too.
Yeah. In the on the extremities, did he?
Well, I mean, like on the body. Like the rain.
He had red rain in the body or the bars?
I'm pretty sure it was in the body. I'm gonna look now just because you said that.
You look, because I'm pretty sure that it's in the bars, and he has some of these dots that are like bar dots that pop up in a couple places, but they're not body color. Unless I'm remembering it incorrectly. We can pull up a picture to call it when I show the video. But
it was in his bars. You're right.
No,
yes,
okay, yeah.
Yeah. See, I saw that when I was younger. So or when he was younger, so I was pretty sure he didn't have it in the body.
Yeah, but you're right. His body was clean. It was just the red dots in his blue bars.
Exactly. So it was isolated to the bars, and you see that in the offspring. Like and
a few of them.
Yeah, you see a few of them where there's a little bit of red in there, but not bad. And the thing that I was talking to Jim about, because the female on that, I was talking to Jim about it, and I was like, "Did you see any animals like this? Like, where did this come from?" and he has no explanation for it. So you must have just hit on the the perfect tail result there, man. That's pretty cool.
And I couldn't even tell until they got older. You know, they all looked the same to me. And that's part of
when they were younger.
Yeah, they all none of them really stood out until they started getting their colors, and then some of them were just crazy.
3-4 months old, or
some of them even a little bit younger, 2.5, 3 months. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it's definitely for yellows. I can usually tell between that 2.5 to 4 month range whether they're going to be spectacular. Like you know. In that range that this animal is going to be great. You might not know about the bar color, but you can isolate the ones that are going to have like perfect yellows. In my experience, have you guys seen that too, or how?
Well, I'll speak for myself. I'm behind with how you can view things. Like it's taken me a long time to figure out what you're looking at. Even when we have conversations, you'll be talking about something, and I'll have to go and try and figure out exactly what you mean when you're talking about how you pick out your animals or which ones you know are going to be better than other ones. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll agree with Bryan. I think, we're not as far along as well seasoned of veterans as you are, my friend. But, I definitely think we're both getting better at it. But I think we still have a ways to go before we can spot what you spot right at 2.5 months old to know, okay, these 4 are the ones I want to hold on to see which one I want to keep for myself.
Yeah. And I struggle with how to do that with a reservation list because I don't want to piss off the first pick every time.
Yeah.
Because but I also don't want to hide stuff from people. So I tell them, I'll be like, hey, this is the one I picked. You get to pick from there, and I'll help them work through it. But sometimes they're like, no, but I want that one, the one you picked. And I'd prefer to do that than pop it on them in 3 months when it looks great. And they're like, where was that one when we had the list? So
no,
I prefer that.
I did the same thing. You be up front and say, listen, sorry, I have to keep my best breeder stock. I mean,
exactly.
Regardless, I mean, we have businesses to try to operate. We have to keep our genetics as best as we can for the next group.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Most people are understanding, but
they are. It's just important to be upfront, like you said. You have to let them know, or else 3 months down the road, when you show them and they said, "What? Come on,
was that?
Where was he?"
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of those moments throughout our careers, and I think that one thing I do like about you guys, Jim, a number of other breeders, is that they make the right choice. There's this ethical situation, and they generally make the right choice. They have the hard conversation knowing that, hey, maybe I'll lose a sale over this, but you're going to tell people the truth, and you're just going to move on, And
right.
that's the thing that is a bit of a challenge when it comes to selective breeding, right?
Yeah.
So, because if people don't make that choice, then you're going to get random females from them.
Yeah.
Because they don't actually have the inventory of the thing that you want, right? Like that's one of the very common things, I think, especially with red bodies. It's a theory this is a theory I have. I haven't worked with them long enough to know that this is true, but red bodies having a higher value, have a higher market value, makes it more likely that they're going to sell out of their reds and then pass off yellows as reds.
And then all they got to do is just say, "Well, I can't guarantee that it was going to be red."
Exactly. It's like
You know what I mean?
only like a 25% chance max anyway. So, yeah. And so you have a lot of people gravitating to the red body market who are, I don't know if I would say generally unscrupulous dealers, but like there's a decent amount of kind of shady stuff going on there.
Yeah, I think it happens with everything. I think, even with yellows.
Yeah, I know it does, but it's like, why would you ever go to the shady yellow dealer? Come on. Right?
Oh yeah, I mean,
Definitely.
hey, if the prices are right, I think that's a lot of it too.
No, you're right.
No, you're right. You're right. Brian.
I mean, people are looking. They don't always associate a higher price with a better quality. So
Right.
We don't.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're coming from the ball python market, right? Like pastel's pastel. Who cares, man?
Right. Yeah. Yep. Or I think it's the other way around too. If somebody prices an animal on the lower end, they think it's not as good because it's not $600. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, I was talking to some people about Morph Market the other day, and I had the exact same thing. It's like, do I really want my high quality animals side by side with something twice as much that's not worth it? Like,
No.
It's like worth half the value of what I'm charging, but it's 4 times the value in price.
Yeah.
And then you put those right next to each other in front of people, and then they're going to be like, oh, well, there must be some reason that this thing is so much more. I'll get that, you know?
Yeah.
And
Or there's a reason this one's so much cheaper. Maybe it's missing a leg or something.
Yeah, on the back side of the picture, hidden away. Yeah. No, I know. But you know what I'm saying. Like, that's my only issue with Morph Market right now is that, like, there's so much of that weird pricing going on. It's all over the place. They haven't settled into a groove on that, so the market's kind of squirrely.
I think with Morph Market, he should slow down a little bit with making all these other changes and get other things figured out first.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he's talking about making a dark mode, and there's other things that are more important than that.
I love dark mode.
Well, so do I. I have it on my phone.
You're going to tell him not to do dark mode?
Don't do that, Brian.
No, I'm not saying not to do it. I'm saying there's other things that are more important than that at the moment.
Yeah, but it's a really easy thing to do. I could do it right now if you gave me the code, so...
I'm not surprised, Jonathan. Not surprised.
Yeah. But okay, cool, guys. So how about phenotypes? How do you think about phenotypes? And I know you've mentioned that you try to do reds and yellows. And can you talk about the way that you think about phenotypes? How do you think of an animal? So people will say, "Oh, I did a red and a red," and you look and you're like, "No, you didn't." But how do you make some of those judgments?
Honestly, I don't even know. Like, I don't even know what you mean, bro. I don't know those words.
Oh, okay. So wrong word. When we say yellow body, blue bar, that's a phenotype.
Okay.
When we say red body, blue bar, that's a phenotype. And it's basically just a collection of traits that all come in a package, and so it's an expression of genes. If you want to get into the technical background of what that term means, but basically, we usually say, "Hey, we're doing yellow body blue bar." How do you look at an animal and know that that's what it is?
Experience, really. I mean,
You just looked at enough of them.
yeah, because in the beginning, if you would have asked me, I'd have been like, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I still didn't even know the word. So,
Well, no. Phenotype is a scientific term. That
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't think
I've heard it
yeah.
before. I just didn't know the meaning of it. But
Yeah.
once you see enough of them, you can easily pick out what is and what isn't, or what is what somebody claims it to be and what isn't what somebody claims it to be.
Yeah.
Or if they
It's like
mix,
a visual thing.
or if they mix two of them,
You know
you can
what
tell that
traits
too.
for sure. After, I think I could say, my first year and a half, I had no idea what I was looking for females. I mean,
Yep.
I knew what my males looked like. I knew what I was looking for, but at the same time, I hadn't grasped how far back I really need to go as far as the gene pool and the familial lines to really know what I was going to get out of them.
Yeah. And
Even today, I mean, these days, I can't buy an animal unless I can go back 3 generations.
hmm
I mean, I can, I won't at this point. I mean, I've seen beautiful animals being produced by, some of the newer people that are around or have been around maybe a year too long these days. But, I'll ask them, let me see the familial lines, and, I can only give you the male. And I have to say, well, I'm sorry. And to be honest with you, it sucks because I've seen some very beautiful animals where I'm like, oh, I want to snatch this boy up, or let me get this female because I saw the brother to her. And then, I'm told, sorry, I don't have the genetics for you that only passed, the mom and dad. I'm like, well, that's too bad.
Yeah.
I try to give the heads up.
They grabbed the one nice male and then hit all the ugly ones and said, "Hey, you want a female?" And
yeah.
I'm kind of glad that it is the way it is with the lineage, because that makes everybody else appear to be more transparent with what they're dealing with or what they have. I mean, everybody can still lie, but it puts out a better expectation for new people.
Yeah.
You know?
Agreed.
Yeah.
We know what we're working with,
Yep. Track it, reshare it, and let people know so that at the point of sale they can make a choice.
Well, and like you, Jonathan, you have how many generations now, and you can go back and see what's producing what and how. You know what I mean? It helps, especially with the way these genetics work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially, a lot of people can use your graphs to check on, to date back on their own animals when they don't even buy from you because you're so well documented at this point. I mean, your data analysis is game changing for a lot of people. I mean,
Thanks, man.
It helps being a data scientist, but
Yeah. Well, it's applied. It's applied to this domain. So
great.
He's definitely. Go ahead.
No, it's really changed the game for a lot of people.
Yeah, he's definitely pioneering.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of people are able to provide, genetics as far back as a generation or two, but a lot of people have been able to provide it, but not at the extent that you have started doing. And I think that really is pushed for the rest of us to follow along with you.
Yeah. And the other thing that I try to do is show the actual results from the clutches. So like putting up the sibling galleries.
Yep.
So every single clutch has a sibling gallery where you can look through and you'd be like, oh, that's the ugly male I don't want. You can avoid the females from that group. It's totally up to you. You can say, oh, that group was really consistent. That's the one I want. You go
Yeah.
get a female and work it in. I don't know anybody who shares those types of details. Like literally every animal, whether they hit or not, and just says, "Here's the gallery, take a look," rather than cherry pick that one that's like the poster boy for the
Yeah.
clutch.
Here's
You
my
know?
most beautiful animal. Buy everything from it now. But
Yeah. And we all know the game. We all know the game they're playing, right? So, that's part of why I called their bluff and said, "Hey, I'll just put the whole clutch up there." like, it's like this is stupid. So,
no, and I think it's great. I think what you've been doing is really awesome for everyone. I mean, there's no backdoor hiding. You're not stashing anything away. You're not keeping that away from everyone. You're very transparent.
yeah. The only exception is this F1 group I'm raising right now. They will. I will list them last. They are not going to be listed anytime soon. So it's like if I'm looking around the room, being like what else can I list? I don't want to list that yet, you know. So, but yeah, I think that the way that I think about it, and I know you guys have started to you think about it the same way, but like when you're getting that female, you look at her lineage, you dig in. The male, you kind of, it's what you see is what you get. Like you can see what traits he has, so you don't necessarily, you can dig on his lineage, but it's less important.
Yeah.
On the female side though, you want to get at least 2, 3 is ideal. And at 3, that's like 87% of the information that's out there. There's still like a 12.5% chance that you'll hit on something you don't see if you have 3 sires.
Yeah.
Which is surprisingly high percentage.
Yeah. It really is.
Right?
And
that
little percent can really sneak attack you if you're not ready for it.
yes. And I think that like people don't get that. Usually they see like one sire and they're like, game on, you know.
Yeah.
This female's the one I want. And from a selective breeding standpoint, that's just not enough information.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, I wish I wish I had a couple more females to keep from this clutch to play around with.
I took one. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have one, and I'm raising another one. So I have 2.
Oh, so you got 2. Still got 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. You can pair those off to different, like 2 nice sires and split it.
Right.
Don't do the same one. Don't do 1 to 1. Or don't do 1 and 2.
Oh, I have a question for you. Right, so I was remember when we were talking about the females that are showing reds?
Yeah.
Right. I brought it up to the cameras, Brianna.
Uh-huh.
And I brought up the fact about taking like a red one and her sister that wasn't showing red and breeding the same male to him. Would that be how you see if that's going to affect it? Because then Linda Nicholson said, well, I would think you would want to use unrelated female that doesn't have that trait.
No, I like the related test.
Right. 2 sisters. One that's showing and one that's not.
Yeah, I
exactly.
agree.
Because they share more genetics.
That's what I thought too.
It's still like it's going to be a numbers game though, and you would have to produce a lot and have a decent sense for both of those females at the end of the day. So, you couldn't do it with like 5 sires, right? You can do it with like 5 males on each side. You'd really need like 20 or 30 from each to be able to make an accurate estimate of the like actually understand the results.
Right.
So
yeah.
that's
you need a larger group.
Yeah. So that's the only thing that I would say is if you have 2 females, you'd have to be pretty successful and get a decent gender ratio. Watch those males. And
Yeah,
then
because she
and
was
then
saying it would make more sense to use from different lines or unrelated, because if you use them sisters, one that's showing and one's not, they still have the same lineage.
yeah, but that's
That
perfect.
was her point.
That's perfect though. You want that. You want all the other things to be held constant except
Right.
for
That's what I.
the red,
That's what.
Exactly. Yeah.
the red. So from a scientific standpoint, it's a control. You
Right.
want as many
Right.
things to be the same as possible and just differ the red trait.
That's what I thought. But when she brought it up, I was like, maybe she's right. Maybe you should, or do two different groups with the same male. Like I said, two sisters here and two sisters over there. I don't know.
No, the ideal case is to isolate the trait so that that is literally the only difference. Like,
Right. Yeah. See, that's what
Y-
I thought.
yeah, yeah. So that would be my approach. I generally, when I look at females, they change way more than males over their lifetime, right? Like because of their receptive and gravid cycles.
Yeah.
So there's certain traits that like will show up for like a month, and then they're gone forever. You know.
Well, that's the that's the thing
Yeah.
with them girls too. You only see that from a young age until they get receptive, and then you'll never see it again
Yes.
because they're either
Yes.
going receptive or gravid back and forth.
Yeah. There's that moment in a female's life where she's absolutely drop dead gorgeous, and then it's gone.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, marketing pictures, please. Right now, this is the time. So, that I mean, it's true. I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
it's a fact, and people. But regardless, what can you guys talk to me a little bit about the information that you share with people to try to help them make an educated decision about what they're going to get? I know we try to help gauge their expectations in a verbal way, but what are some of the things you help them understand?
The main thing is that there is no guarantee that they're going to look like what the parents look like or what the lineage is. There's just too many variables.
Exactly.
Yep.
I agree. I mean, you can tell them that you can give them a rough estimate. I mean, there is no guarantee exactly how an animal's going to look like when it reaches adulthood. I mean,
Exactly.
you could give some ideas. I mean, when I have customers trying to pick out animals, if I have pictures from a previous clutch of the same pairing, I show what they could possibly look like. But when it comes down to it, I can't tell you what an animal is going to look like when it reaches adulthood.
Yep. And if you knew, you'd try to keep it.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then the other variables are care.
Yeah, exactly.
Care's,
Exactly. I mean,
care's going to play a big role in what they end up looking like too, because I mean, if you're not properly taken care of, they're going to be gray and sickly looking and not having much color anyway.
Yep. And one of the concepts that I tried to talk to a few people about is that given that their genotype is so complex, it's polygenic. There's a lot of traits like height, or height is a good one, because if your environment impacts your height, right? If you don't eat enough, you're not going to be that tall. You're not going to reach your maximum height. And not only that, but if you start eating enough later, you still won't reach your maximum height.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if color is polygenic, by raising them properly, you actually reach the maximum color potential. And the environment, that what you're seeing, that gray, sickly, stressed out animal, is going to be stunted in color, not just
In size.
not just at the point of sale, but for that entire life. That
Right.
animal is stunted. The color is not going to be as vibrant, and they're not going to get to that max potential. And so that's one thing I think people don't understand, because they're like, oh, it's the same locale, same phenotype or same color scheme. If I get it at a cheaper price from this guy who's like letting them beat the hell out of each other, then they're,
Well, that was the other thing
you know,
about
it's
raising
like
them in
it's just
groups too.
yeah, yep. But you know what I'm saying. Basically,
Oh,
like,
definitely.
yeah, it's like that top
Environment
end
plays a
potential.
big factor, no matter what. I mean,
Yep.
it's kind of like even with feeders, you get in what you put out. If you're
Yep.
giving proper gut load, you're getting more nutrition to your animal, the more healthier it's going to be. I mean, if you're
Mm-hmm.
not giving the gut load proper, if you're not giving proper gut load, you're just essentially giving a bug that has no nutrients to your animals, and it's not
Mm-hmm.
getting what it needs.
Yep. How about you guys can talk about some of the biggest challenges that you faced when trying to selectively breed?
Picking the wrong animal.
On the female side, or sires that just didn't prove out?
The female side, I mean, has been my main issue in the past. I think I see what I want, and then, that doesn't prove out to be what I was exactly hoping to get. I mean, that's the nature of the game, though. That's what we all hope for is, we see a few traits that we really like going back some lineage, and then we hope to achieve that on top of what we're working with. And, when it doesn't work out, it can be pretty defeating, I mean, I'm sure we've all been there.
Yeah, but Jonathan set the bar really high with that.
True. Very true.
Because I think everybody chases what you produce. I want to produce stuff that looks like that. You know what I mean?
Thanks, Steve.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, well, I guess one of the challenges that I've faced is getting a male that is worth breeding, right?
Yeah.
It's because people don't understand how many males you go through before you're like, yeah, this is the one.
And they don't. You're right. You are. You're very right.
And so they're like, oh, but I thought you gave me the one that you thought was going to be the one. And I'm like, you have no idea how many of those I look at. And I'm like, yeah, that's the one. And I'm not right. And then I'm like, yeah, that's the one. And no, that's not right. And like, they keep going through.
Every week they look
before
different.
you settle.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a personal challenge, but then it's also a challenge in communicating to a customer or anybody else, like what your expectation is. And what's even more difficult than that is when you're trying to pull in a male that's unrelated, and find one that's worth breeding, like to create genetic diversity. When you say you hit on your favorite clutch, so Bryan, you're in this position.
Yeah, exactly. I was just gonna say I'm there now.
It's like how do you find a male?
Tell us what you got, Bryan. Let's go.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, for the two females that I kept from this yellow body clutch, I had to find a male that I think is going to pair and cohesive. You know what I mean? Together. That's not going to pop out some traits that I didn't want, but it's going to enhance the ones that are already there.
F1 Dia with Papafy.
I was gonna say,
Papafy F1.
Bryan, just remember, I got you beat on that one, though.
See, that's the other thing. That's the other problem. That's the other problem with being so close to each other.
Yeah.
Right? We trade stuff back and forth, and then we end up producing the same exact pairings.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that is true, but I think that we don't engage in any anti-competitive behavior.
No, not at all.
So who cares? Like, it's fine. Like, if I see, oh, geez, Bryan just hit on this great thing, then I'm going to be telling people about it. Who cares?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Bryan and I, we've been working together between our two businesses for, 3 years now?
Yeah, about that.
We don't see each other as competitors. We're friends. We help each other out at every possible time when we can.
I think the community in general gets a bad rap for that. But there's the majority of people that I know and that I talk to we're all the same. We all try and send people to each other and all. Yeah. I don't know where all this competitive that this one's talking shit about this one or whatever. You know what I mean? I don't see any of that because they're people that I talk to.
Yeah,
are all like-minded. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
No, there's
I,
always going to be a few outliers in regards to the competitiveness, but I think for the most part, this community has been very great with supporting one another. I mean, everyone's got a little competitiveness to each other, but I think, yeah, we know.
But it's the good kind.
No, but it's a good competitive edge.
Right.
It's not, it's not to the point where you're trash talking anyone. It's, you compare
no.
each other's animals to see what we're all pulling to the table and what we can bring to the community instead
Yeah.
of, like I said, there are the outliers that do like to trash talk, but for the most part, I mean, I know I can speak to me and Brian and you, or we stay away from that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, the only reason I raised my hand about that competitiveness thing is because I love it. Like
Yeah,
I love competition, and I love a fair fight, right? So if someone's gonna make it unfair in some way, then that pisses me off. But
Right.
if we're all gonna engage in a fair competition, I absolutely love that. I think that's great because I truly believe that that type of competition yields better quality, and you have more fun, and it's like, who cares, dude? Let's go. Like, this is
I
gonna be
agree.
fun. And so um, that's the only reason I raised my hand about that. Is like, I feel like competition the right way is very beneficial.
It
Yeah, we
yields great.
we we push
Yeah,
each other
Yep.
to strive for better, to strive to
yeah,
produce better.
Yep. Yeah. And I think you hit on it, dude. I think you did. I think you did. That
Maybe.
that that animal, when you get your holdback to fire up completely, he's gonna blow people away.
I
He's
agree. I've been saying the same thing. I'm
Yeah.
excited to see how he looks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but now comes the
So
hard part: reproducing that every time,
It's
or
all about
yeah.
brother.
yeah,
Well,
or just as often as he does.
Yeah,
well, no. Hey, just wait for your Alfred, right?
yeah.
You're not shooting for it, but it happens, right?
Well,
So who?
I wasn't
Arrow.
shooting for it this time. I mean, you always
Yeah.
hope for it, and if it
Yeah.
comes, it comes. But I think I focus more on just producing nice, healthy animals. And when it happens,
Hmm.
it makes it even better because I wasn't putting myself to a standard that I couldn't achieve.
Yeah. I. But you can achieve it. You did. So
Yeah,
that's
Yeah,
that's the
but
way I would put it.
I mean, but I wasn't putting myself in position where if I didn't, it was going to be the end of everything, or I
Oh
failed.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. No, no,
It
no.
happened, and you're grateful that it did, but it wasn't the end of all if it didn't come out the
Right,
way you're hoping.
right. I still would have
Yeah,
just kept trucking and trying the next time.
exactly. And but I think that that's just part of the selective breeding process. There, it's if you have enough discipline to recognize when it didn't reach your standard, you let it go,
Yep.
move on. Like, and then you keep your standard high. You select animals and keep moving. But if you don't hit, it's not a big deal. It's like you just make sure you have enough discipline not to breed those females.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be, because a lot of people are like, oh, that didn't quite meet my standard. I don't know. I guess I'll just like breed two of those girls and see what happens, and then you just kick that can down the road.
Yeah.
You're never going to reach the standard if you don't let them go.
Yes, or you use different ones.
Yeah, yeah. You could do like a reset pairing or like an unrelated thing. Try to get the best sire, work it back in if you want, but I think so. For me, I in my fourth generation was the one where I had the most variety of results. When you look at the fourth generation, I didn't hit that much. Like there. I would say I hit on like 2 out of 5 clutches, maybe, where I was saying that like, oh, this one's worth keeping,
Mhm.
and it was because it was starting to get to that point where it had enough genetic diversity and a lot of things going on in the clutches, and had to make those choices of being like, which one am I actually going to keep going and working with, and I think that's It's just part of it. It's like you're gonna hit that perfect one, like you're at like that perfect state where you're at, Bryan, and then you're gonna take it a couple generations out from there in different directions, and it's gonna get increasingly worse until you get to a place where you're like, oh, good, I can bring it back together again now.
Yeah.
Well, see, I think that's that's going to be an issue for me too. Because I don't have the space that you guys have. I mean, I have what I have outside, and I can always add more. But I don't think adding a bunch more animals is
feasible.
well. I mean, I could do it. I had double what I had now.
Grow, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But I don't think it's fair to add a bunch more animals and not have the care and quality. You know what I mean?
No. But if you have a single male, single female, like if just a few, and then you pair them well, you could still have a lot of fun with that and kick it out.
My plan is
a trio from this group.
My plan is two males for yellow body, 2 males for red body, and then 3 females for each.
Oh, that's a good size.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's basically what I had now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your numbers right now are pretty solid for sure.
I mean, at one point I had like 60
adults.
You know what I mean? Well, no, not adults. I mean,
but
we're not
just in my just hatched at once. You know, I had 60. I hatched at once, and I was like,
Okay. That's a lot. Yeah. Because I remember, and I've told people this. I try to explain this to new breeders. Like going from 1 to 2 females is epic. You don't like. I started with 1 female, Jude's mother, and when I selected Jude from that first generation, I got him 2 females, and so I went from 1 female to 2 females with Jude. It was just Jude with 2 females, and I was like, "This is insane! It's so much harder." Like this, I just went from 1 to 2, and the scale is just it is so much different.
Yeah, I mean, when one female's laying every 2 to 3 months, you know, I get a lot of people that want to start breeding, or people that buy from me that want to start breeding, and they're like, you know, what advice do you have? I said, start slow. Don't get
small.
10 animals and start breeding them all, because you're going to very quickly get overwhelmed.
Yeah, don't pull a Robbie. Don't pull a Robbie.
Don't do it.
I did it.
Yeah.
I did it too in the beginning. It's not fun, and it takes the fun out of it. That's why I cut everything in half, and I only have half of what I used to.
I mean, I agree, because for me, I think right around 2.5 to 3 years, I was getting burnout very fast, because we grew very fast. I expanded as quickly as possible because, like I said, I go all in when I'm doing something.
Yep.
And I think now I have it under control. I have what I want. I can still grow a little bit in regards to breeders and still be comfortable. But as quickly as I grew, it made things very hectic. It was honestly, it was nuts for us for a while.
Yeah.
You know, it's already
so you jumped right into the
oh my
god, oh my god phase. Yeah.
He went to the high dive and jumped in. Didn't know how to swim.
Sink or swim, and I like to think we made out pretty good with the swimming factor. You know, I mean, there were a few pairings that later on I thought about and said, you know, I had other animals that I should have switched up with, but you know, nothing to the point where I was like, that was a terrible idea, you know. But there were a few animals that I did buy that I did question whether or not I should have continued with, but now I'm much more selective with what I'm working with, for sure.
Yeah,
I think everybody goes through those. I think everybody goes through those stages.
Yeah, absolutely. The one that I regret the most is Bohana. She was captive hatch. Like I saw some brothers, and I was like, oh, those look Ambilobe, and they're kind of rainbowish. And then I bred her. I bred her once, and didn't prove out. Right?
Yeah.
Wasn't great. And I bred some of her daughters just
Yeah.
to see. Just to see. I was like, this is a new line. I gotta continue it. I can't.
Yeah, I
I
gotta
can't let
work
it
with
die.
it. You know,
Yeah,
gotta give it some time.
I can't let it die.
No.
And then of course both of those were terrible,
Oh.
and so I didn't hit on either one. And then I was just like, wow, that was a lot of effort. Did the sales were rough, like really hard to sell,
Yeah.
and but that's the one that I regret for sure.
Yeah.
Because I've basically removed that line entirely, but it's one where I really just had to get it out. Like it was just terrible.
You had to be done with it. And I mean,
Yeah.
and that's a part of the learning curve with doing what we're doing. I mean, even if you'd already been doing it for a few years, you see that the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow, and you go running for it because it seems like a great idea. Doesn't pan out the way you were hoping. I mean, I know all three of us have been there.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Yeah. And so, I think one last thing that I wanted to ask you guys about is just what are some of the genetic questions that you have that you feel like we haven't answered in the hobby, or is there even one question that we have answered? I think is probably the flip side of that.
As far as genetics go,
Yeah.
I don't think we've answered anything yet. I mean, you're working on it, but I don't think we have any concrete evidence to say this is exactly how it works. You know what I mean? We have a lot of indicators saying, if you do this and this, you'll get this, and it works out that way, but there's always those ones that just pop in. I don't know.
Robbie, do you have a...
It's really hard to say. I think for what we're looking at these days, the genetic testing that you were working with was just, I think that was a game changer for the community. I think that's what we really need to keep pressing on to make it enough to where all of us who are trying to bring in fresh genetics into the pool know what we're getting, what we're actually paying for, instead of all of us butchering our lines. Because that is a big fear for me. I mean, when we've bought our wild caughts, we're picking up females as well.
Yep.
That brings a chance for complete opposite of what we're looking for in our gene pool. So, to get them tested before we just start breeding with them would really make things a whole lot different for us.
Yep. I totally agree. I think that's one area where we actually are making progress, and we could, as soon as Benson is able to release it as a public product, then he's super busy. Like, have you seen some of his Instagram updates?
No.
He's pretty funny. There's he did this one where he was running on the beach, like all the sand in his beard, and showing how hard he's working on just getting out his ball python tests, and so I was like, oh geez, he's not getting to our chameleon stuff anytime soon. No. He's like cracking these jokes about how hard it is, and so I'm gonna try to get him on an episode.
That'd be great. Yeah.
To get an update from him, and then to try to get a sense for when we could start using that test.
I think if that becomes a way that's affordable and mainstream, that's gonna change the game entirely too.
Oh yeah,
but
it'll be really really useful, and I think what's going to be fun is when I test my animals and I find one pure animal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well,
it's what do you do? What do you do when those are the results?
Start over.
Yeah. It's like, do you start over, or do you be like,
Nah,
okay,
I just
now I actually have two. I have two
You
projects,
have
and
to
I
be
just split
honest.
them. Yeah, be honest. You publish it, you split it, and I'd be like, okay, this is the breakdown of the test in over here. This is my hybrid cross yellows. This
Yep.
is my pure Ambilobe yellows, and you can continue forward potentially, but just be honest about what it is.
well, now
Exactly.
couldn't you potentially breed that out? Like, say,
No.
why not?
You can't get to 0.
Well,
You can just cut it in. You just cut it in half every generation.
Lower and
so-
lower percentages, but you're still going to have that genetic trait or lingering in the background.
Yeah, but-
you still have that
Yeah.
out.
We
in the
could
background.
but you
as a
could get
group,
it
as a
down
community,
low enough to where it isn't even recognizable.
We could have a conversation about like what we think the purity threshold is, right? We could say it has to be, if you're going to say it's on Banja, has to be 90% or better,
Right.
or like something like that, and then it would be feasible to breed it out, like to purify it back to one locale or another.
Yeah.
But if we are going to say it is a locale and it already has been crossed, you can't get it out. Sucks. But
I don't think
the
I don't
one-
think
the
that's
one
going to
thing-
be the case, though. You think so?
well, based on the results in Europe, it's probably true that most of them are crosses. Like, so in that paper in 2015, they tested over 30 animals, and I think that like 25 were crosses.
So
now,
you're telling me there's a chance.
now are those
Yes, there is a small chance that they're pure. Yeah,
are those
yeah.
animals that they tested were they captive bred or wild caught?
They were captive bred from top breeders in Europe, and then they didn't tell us who they were because they didn't want to out them.
Well, of course.
Well,
Not.
but-
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some is
Part
But
of
I,
to do the testing was probably don't give
tell
out
anybody.
the name. Yeah.
Yeah. But I think that's my base expectation is like, this is hard, man. And I think that when I look at the wild caught that I just got, they look just like my captive bred animals.
It's amazing. The two you picked
that's
up
a
are
good thing, right?
Yeah.
Because for a while I was like, is this yellow thing even real? Like, I see so many of these wild caught come in, they don't see this yellow. Did somebody cross Mizio in there? Did they cross Zimbabwe in there? Like, I don't even know. Okay, I'm looking around, I don't see any of these wild caught that look like this, right?
Yeah.
And so it was very worried. Like, part of why I wanted the test is because I was like, I think there's something in here. Like,
Yeah.
I think there's something else in here. Like,
Yeah,
this is different
yeah.
from
It
all
was-
the other Ambilobe I'm seeing.
They
you know?
look too good to be true. So
Yeah.
I don't
Exactly.
blame you. I would have
I know. Exactly. And so that's the one thing that when I see these guys coming in from that look just like Jude, for example, I'm like, that's a good sign. We just need to get one to come in that looks like Sparkles again, and then we'll be happy. You know, like we need, you know, there's a couple of animals that were like, I need more wild caught examples of those, but even still, that's why I think that that's an important test. It's like an important thing that we could do to be more transparent and figure out, like, hey, is this thing real? But one thing that you said, Bryan, about the genetics, it's actually very likely that it is always going to be probabilistic outcomes for Panther chameleons. So when we figure it out, what we'll be figuring out is essentially just probabilities and percentages. So not necessarily that we're going to have discrete outcomes that we can achieve with any level of certainty, but like a range of outcomes with some level of certainty. So less discrete, but more of like a percentages breakdown and a spectrum of results is the way that I would characterize the goal of our genetic search, because I don't think there's any genes that we have that produce discrete outcomes for the species.
Right.
So That's one thing that's at least how I would characterize it, is because some people are like, oh, you can never know, and I'm like, yeah, you can. It's just
Do you want to
not as
know?
precise. Yeah, yeah.
Might not want to know.
They probably don't.
No.
Yeah, they probably like it's better if you have no idea what female I paired this to. Yeah. So, I just translated what they were saying. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't have to ask any further. You just right off the bat,
Yeah.
Yep.
Couldn't tell you how many of those I've gotten lately.
Exactly. Yeah. So cool, guys. I really appreciated this opportunity to talk to you after all these years. And do you have anything else that you want to leave people with?
You get what you put out. I mean, if you put in the effort, you put in the work, and you put in the care, you're gonna get the animals that you're looking for. If you can't do it right, just don't do it. It's not good for the animals, it's not good for yourself, and it's not good for the community.
And neither is mass producing.
Mm-hmm.
Then people out there that are just throwing things together just because they think they're going to make money. You're not.
Nope.
You're not.
We don't do this to make. I mean, let's be real.
Yeah.
We're
that's
trying to make money. We wouldn't be breeding chameleons.
But that's why a lot of people get in, because they think they're going to do this and it's easy to do, and then they're going to make money doing it.
Yeah. No, I mean, we've seen a lot of people start, burn out, leave.
Yeah.
People do like one clutch and they're done. And yeah, no, definitely not a way to make money. And I mean, you can, but not
you're not going to get rich doing this.
No, definitely not. But one concept that I have with selective breeding, and I think you guys have probably thought about this too, is that there's like a sire market. So every sire has a market potential. And if you breed him too much, you're going to exceed the entire market for him, because it's not that big. Like, people think of it like it's a big market, like all of Panther chameleons, and I generally try to think about it on a individual basis, like how many clutches could I do with this animal before I hit a point where the sales are just going to drop off entirely.
That's part of the reason why I cut back on how many I had, because I noticed with the Toby clutches that I was producing, after about the second one, nobody wanted them anymore, even though they were nice.
Yep. Yeah.
So now
Jude had a drop off too.
Yeah.
But it was one of the longest drop offs that I've had. It took like 5 clutches or 6 clutches. Then I started to notice. I was like, geez, this is really hard.
Yeah, but see, look what he produced. That's everybody was.
I know.
Everybody was grabbing them to try and reproduce it.
Yep.
That's why.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what I mean, is like some of them it really is like maybe 0.
Yeah.
And then for others it's like 1 or 2, and then when you have a really spectacular male, one that just like blows you away, we're talking like 4 or 5.
Yeah.
And then but then if you do more than a trio with any animal, you're exceeding the market potential of that spectacular, like, once in a year type animal. We're talking like there's one person in the United States who has this animal that you should pair more than twice.
Yeah. Agreed.
And I don't think people understand that.
No.
From us.
No.
Well, and then the other problems come is like with your Jude thing. You had 5 before it started to fizzle out, and everybody was grabbing them.
Yeah.
Everybody's grabbing them, and then you had the people that grabbed them that reproduced that couldn't sell them because everybody's stuff was related. That was the other problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I still look back. I saw pictures of the last fourth generation animal from a Jude female that I sold, and I just had my heart dropped, And I was like, damn, I should have kept that one. And I had, and then I realized, like, no, I made the right choice. It was the right choice because there was no way I was going to be able to sell any of those.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that's one of the challenges too. When you're selectively breeding, at some point you also have to bring in that market consideration and understanding the real max potential for any animal, no matter how spectacular it is.
Yeah.
So
for sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, guys. Well, thank you so much for joining, and I hope you enjoy this conversation and this series. I hope if you guys get the chance to listen to it, if you come up with new ideas or other people you think we should work into the conversation, just let me know, because I know you guys know some people that I don't know, and I think it'd be really cool.
Jonathan.
No, that's not true. You guys are in Florida. There's definitely people.
You don't want to. Let me stop.
That was a leading question, Brian.
Mm-hmm.
That was a good one.
Yeah. So cool.
All right.
It's good.
Having us, John.
talking.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, I enjoyed it
Yeah.
for sure.